Your beard is so twisted. So, one of the early things I got sent to my P.O. box, address down in the description if you ever want to send me stuff, was a DVD copy of a musical from StarKid Productions called Twisted. I've had this in my possession for a while. I've been meaning to watch it for a while. I am embarrassed at how long it took me to get around to watching it. I have now finally watched it. In a lot of ways, this is kind of what I was hoping to get to do more of between the combination of bringing the break room about in the first place and also the fact that I will be going down to 2 videos a week on the main channel as opposed to 4. Because what was going on before was, because I had a rigid 4 video per week schedule, it was very easy for me to either be slightly behind from where I wanted to be or to be kind of cutting it close, which meant that basically anytime I sat down to watch anything, the question was, can I get a video out of this? And if I can't, do I have the time to do it? And with something like Twisted, while I was pretty sure I would have been happy to talk about it after I finally saw it, I also knew that it was something that was probably going to get very low views, and releasing stuff that you know is not going to play well is just not a good idea. Stupid algorithm and all that. But now that I have eased up my schedule a little bit so that I'm concentrating on fewer projects running at the same time for the other channel, and the break room, which has a smaller subscriber count, and I'm not as worried about like, oh, this topic will tank it. This is where I put other stuff. Which means that, well, yes, I could actually get a video out of Twisted, but it's a video that wouldn't tank anything, and I finally watched it. That was a lot of me explaining why this took me so long, when probably the only person who had that question was the person who sent it to me originally. But you deserved an explanation, and so you had an overly long one. Anyways, Twisted, well, actually, let's back up. StarKid Productions is a theater group, at this point best known for a very Harry Potter musical, which had 2 sequels, and they basically do parody musicals. But what's cool about what they do is generally when you think the term parody musical, you think, maybe something like Weird Al or maybe even, more sort of broad sort of comedy stuff like maybe Lonely Island, 1 or 2 songs, maybe an album. No, these are full-blown staged musicals. 2 acts, about 2 hours for the whole show, beginning, middle, end. They commit to what they do. And one of the things that they did was Twisted. And Twisted is basically giving Jafar from Disney's Aladdin the wicked treatment, which is to give us a new perspective on the story we already know, which paints Jafar as a heroic figure instead of a villainous one. Now, I'm going to avoid spoilers, which might sound a little weird that there are spoilers, given that it's based off a 90s Disney film that, like, everybody knows, or at least everybody my age knows anyways. But some of the ways that they choose to come about it are really interesting and really clever. So first off, yes, I did enjoy this. And it was funny, but it wasn't just funny. The big thing that I really admire about what StarKid does here, and the impression is that they do it with pretty much everything they do, is, like I said before, the level of commitment. Because if you're truly going to make a full-length musical out of a concept like this, you can't be going jokey, winking at the audience the entire way through. That's going to get real old real fast. You can get away with that for like a 5-minute sketch, not for a full-length musical. So they have to play it pretty straight. There are winking moments at the audience, although if I'm being completely honest, those were usually some of the weaker beats of the play. Like, there are a couple of jokes that very clearly become much broader swipes at Disney in general as a company, and those, I'm not going to say they fell flat, but they didn't work for me quite as well as when the jokes were a bit more self-contained. I think if there's an overall weak link, it's something that they did where they did an expansion of a character, which was kind of a clever thing that they did, but unfortunately he kind of became a vehicle for most of the humor that was exceptionally self-referential to Disney as a whole and was the most meta-ish. And that is Prince Ahmed. Now, it's been a while since you've watched Aladdin. Prince Ahmed is the guy who Aladdin has a brief confrontation with him. He then goes to the palace, gets Raja the tiger sicked on him, and storms off with his heart-patterned boxers hanging out because his butt got bit. We get an expansion of him basically starting from the premise of there's actually going to be consequences to that because he's like a member of a royal family in a neighboring country. There's gonna be fallout from this. It's not just a one-off joke. These things have consequences now, which is honestly a really cool idea. And I don't want to say the character doesn't work, but like I said, he became a vehicle for a lot of the more meta commentary, which I don't think was the stronger material. The main basic premise, in terms of character adjustments that they do, there are 3 primary characters who get adjusted. Most of the rest stay more or less the same as you would have known them from the original work, or at least close enough that it's like just minor tweaking. Like, the Sultan's still an idiot. He's an idiot in a slightly different way, but he was an idiot before, he's an idiot now. But the characters who get the shifts are Aladdin, Jasmine, and Jafar. Now, with Jafar, what we get someone who just wants to do what's best for the kingdom. Very much giving him the Wicked treatment, where the Wicked Witch of the West was repainted as someone who fought for the downtrodden and the animal people who were oppressed. And with Jafar, he is very much trying to get into place things that will help the downtrodden in Agrabah. But there's so much nonsense going on at the palace that he's trying to deal with. And plus, there's these criminals all in the street, like Aladdin, causing all this ruckus all the time. He can never get anything useful done. And he pretty much gets blamed for everything. There isn't really a clear reason why that happens, but they kind of acknowledge that it's to an unreasonable level, so they don't necessarily have to explain it. Like, literally every dialogue that the captain, who's always hunting down Aladdin, has with Jafar, the first sentence he has with Jafar is, "Yes, and it's all your fault, Jafar," no matter what it is. So that kind of it hangs a lampshade on it. So that's pretty cool. And then with the princess, with Jasmine, what we get with her is that she's basically well-meaning but naive. She also wants good things for the kingdom, but she doesn't know enough about how the world or much of anything outside the walls of the palace works. So, when she goes out and sees how hard it is for the common people in the city, one of her first thoughts is, everyone should have slaves serving them, even the poor people. It's like, So, well-meaning, inexperienced. And Aladdin's just a jerk in this, which could have gotten old really quick, but he's also kind of an idiot as a jerk. If he had been more sort of maniacal and scheming, but no, he's just a jackass who skates by on luck and charm, or at least tries to. And that is close enough to what was going on with Aladdin, while very clearly doing a different take on the guy, that worked pretty well too. And I don't want to talk too much more about the specifics of how characters are and aren't used and what else happens later on, because if you're interested in it, you should watch it. It is actually freely viewable on YouTube. I think everything StarKid has done is. I believe their YouTube channel is Team StarKid. And it's worth checking out. It's in a bunch of parts, but it's pretty neat stuff. And I also, hats off, it's a full-on proper production. It's not like Disney on Broadway levels. You can tell, and sometimes they lean into this, how cheap some of their effects are. But they also do a pretty good job for the level of theater they're working at making a pretty respectable presentation of this whole thing. And the people are actually good singers. The acting is good. The script is, like I said, very well thought out, and the jokes, for the most part, are clever. And even the ones that don't work, I didn't find painful. They just didn't work as well. So Twisted, that was a good time. I'm so sorry I took forever to get around to watching it. But have you seen it? Have you seen anything else that Team StarKid has done? What are your thoughts on any of it? Drop them on down in the comments. Let's talk about it. You know the things. There's the main channel, Council of Geeks. Subscribe there if you haven't. I would imagine you have. Like, share, subscribe, Patreon, link in the description. No pressure though, don't sweat it. We're laid back here. Just come on back next time you need a break.